today we're going to pull on a thread that might just unravel everything you think you know about the very ground beneath our feet. I mean, really think about that for a second. What if the most basic, fundamental fact about our world wasn't a fact at all? What if it was all just a story? A story we've been told for so long, nobody even bothers to question it anymore. Well, today, we're questioning it.
Okay, so here's the official line. For hundreds of years, the story we've been handed down is that we live on a spinning ball. You know, a globe, an oblate spheroid if you want to get technical about it. It's taught in every school, it's printed in every textbook. It's supposed to be Science 101.
But what if that story is full of holes? What if, when you really start to look, you find these nagging little inconsistencies, things that just don't quite fit the narrative, things that are, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for someone to notice? That's exactly what we're going to do today.
All right, Section 1, Deceptions in Plain Sight. We're going to start with the evidence that's literally right in front of your face, the stuff you can see with your own two eyes. Okay, I want you to try this. Go to the beach or find a really, really big lake. Bring a good camera with a zoom lens, a telescope, whatever you've got, and just look. What do you see? I'll tell you what you see. A perfectly flat, razor-sharp, straight line. Every single time. Your eyes don't lie. And right there, that's the first major problem. The spherical theory says there has to be a curve. It's basic geometry. But what we actually see, our observational reality, is a perfectly straight line. So which one is it? Where is this curve they keep talking about? Okay, now let's talk about flying. We all learned this in school, right? The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Simple. So why is it that when you track a flight on a map, it takes this bizarre, huge, looping path? It makes no sense. I mean, just look at a flight from, let's say, South America to Australia. On any map, the plane seems to fly way out of its way in this giant curve. Now, they have a fancy name for it, Great Circle Routes, which is supposed to explain it away. But come on, it completely goes against our common sense. It feels like they're just forcing the data to fit their spherical model instead of questioning the model itself. So we've talked about what we can see. Now let's move on to Section 2, Questioning the Unseen. This is about the invisible forces we're all just told to believe in. Let's talk about gravity, this mysterious invisible force that supposedly glues entire oceans to a rapidly spinning ball rocketing through space. But here's the kicker. Has anyone ever actually seen it or measured it directly? Nope, it's just a theory, a word they invented to explain why things fall down. Now, what if there's a much simpler explanation? Something you can test in your own kitchen. Density. A rock sinks in water because it's denser than the water. A helium balloon floats because it's less dense than the air. See? No magic required. It's a real, observable, measurable property. Why do we need a mystical force when a simple principle works perfectly? Ah, but what about the pictures from space? That's always the big gotcha, right? The famous blue marble photograph, the ultimate definitive proof that Earth is a globe. Case closed. Or is it? Well, if you dig a little, you'll find that the agencies behind these images freely admit they're not real photographs. Not in the way you and I think of them anyway. They're composites. They take these long strips of data from satellites, they stitch them together on a computer, they fill in the gaps with CGI, they play with the colors, and then they present this digital creation as if it were a single perfect snapshot. So let me ask you, is that a photograph or is that computer-generated imagery? Are we looking at a direct observation of our world, or are we looking at a piece of art, a very convincing but ultimately interpretive reconstruction? Okay, so you've got a flat horizon, weird flight paths, a questionable force called gravity, and CGI photos. With all this, why isn't anyone talking about it? Why is all this evidence just ignored? Well, that brings us to Section 3, the wall of consensus. There's a fancy term for it, epistemic inertia. Basically, it just means that once an idea gets big enough and old enough, it becomes almost impossible to change. It's not that the idea is right, it's just, well, that's the way it's always been done. The whole system is built on it, and rocking the boat is just too much trouble. And so what happens is anyone who dares to ask questions, anyone who points out these inconsistencies, they get shut down. They're not dismissed because their evidence is bad. They're dismissed simply because they're challenging the comfortable, established norm. It's way easier to just call someone a crank than to actually think, hey, maybe they have a point. But Isn't the whole point of science to ask questions? To constantly challenge what we think we know? There's this idea that it is the responsibility of scientific inquiry to continuously reevaluate its premises. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. Maybe the question isn't whether the Earth is one shape or another. Maybe the real question is, have we become so certain that we're right, that we've completely forgotten how to ask if we might be wrong?